This is Invisible Walls. This is episode 78. This is Shane Satterfield, the editor-in-chief of the site, setting things off here right on a Friday afternoon, evening, whenever it goes live on the site. Hope everyone out there is doing well. As we've mentioned before, the release calendar is in full swing. We have some good stuff to talk about today, and as usual, Marcus Beer is here to do it.
Yes, this is Marcus Beer.
He's going to do it.
I'm going to do it.
Like Nike.
Do it.
And Bloodworth is sitting in on the show today.
Vroom vroom.
And we also have Ryan Stevens back from the dead.
Yo, peoples.
Let's do it. All right, Bloodworth, is it safe to say at this point that all the marquee driving games are out there and reviewed at this point? Are we missing anything?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple stragglers, but I don't think they're going to be holding up to these. You know, we've got the MX vs. ATV game coming out in a few months.
Which are usually pretty good.
Yeah, and then Need for Speed Nitro. But
And you made Bloodworth
Hey,
review.
it's got shortcuts.
You made Bloodworth review every single.
well, no, he's not in charge of that anymore.
But how many have you reviewed in the past?
5 in a row. And I've never felt like there's been a racing game season before, but this year it's like literally every time I was on the last day of a review,
Yeah.
hey, here's the next one.
I like how Patrick's always like, it's the year of the fighter. And it never really
It never was.
It really is, but it's definitely the year of the racer.
But it's smart to keep the same guy reviewing the racing games because he has a frame of reference to compare all the other racing games to, and that is why Bloodworth is here. We're going to force him to pick his favorite racing game of this year because he has reviewed all the big ones for us. But first of all, Forza 3.
Yeah.
Obviously, our review just went up a couple days ago. What are your impressions of the game that you didn't sort of mention already in the review because you only had so many words and a word count?
You know, I guess, the main thing that just stands out to me is just how much they focused on the community this time, and just really building all those tools and it's kind of like, it gets to be like Facebook.
Yeah.
Like you're looking and you're seeing what other people are posting up and you're checking your favorite people's profiles and you're checking to see who's left ratings on your stuff and, which things people like and stuff like that. And so I think it's funny because I found myself at one point, I looked at my stats and I had spent more time on the storefront than I had actually racing. So it's pretty funny that way. But I think for me, I haven't been into sim racers all that long. I've been in racing games since F-Zero, but the hardcore stuff I've just been getting into the past year or two. And and it's interesting to see, with the new game now, how I'm just kind of I'm just gradually upgrading. I start with the brake line on and most of the assists, and then I kind of just start turning things off one by one. And now I'm doing I'm doing hot laps without any assists on.
They really are like training wheels, right?
Yeah. So it's fun to do that and fun to challenge yourself that way, and then just kind of learn how it all affects the car.
Now, there's one feature that they had promised at E3 that ended up not making it into the game, right?
Or they misspoke as to how, I don't know what they did there. We went back and watched a clip, and they literally said, we made this with Forza 3's video editor. And there's not a video editor.
Right.
There's a lot of replay angles.
An angle chooser.
Yeah, and you can upload clips that are up to 30 seconds long. So basically you pick your angle, you pick your start point, and you say, I want this to be 10 seconds. And that puts it up onto the Forza website.
So it's basically just a 30-second clip from a race from an angle that you select, and that's it. There's actually no editing going on whatsoever.
Right, and then you would take all of your different clips, and if you want to edit something together on your own, you would do that on your PC.
What format do they spit them out in?
It's HD WMV.
Oh, okay. It's pretty versatile and people could use in pretty much any video editing program. But the truth is you'd have to get your own program to make that happen.
Right.
I'm sure there's some DLC on the way.
Yeah.
They'll probably include the video editor with the next set of tracks to download.
Or there's this rumor
That'd be
going around
crazy,
that they're
I
working
think.
on one for the 360 in general that will work with any game.
Yeah, that'd be a firmware update, which would be awesome for us if we could capture a video at home.
We could actually cut videos at home, which
nice.
means more work from home.
Yeah, better than staying here till 2 a.m.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but then you could actually sit, in your underwear, play a game, capture the video from home, as opposed to making us watch you sit in your underwear, play a game here in the office.
And
I
spoil
hate
the
wearing
ending
Shane's
of
underwear too.
I think it would
Very
come in
uncomfortable.
handier for our reviews, right? Because now we don't have to, either basically when we capture footage for reviews, either we sit here until ungodly hours of night or we try to take home one of our devices and capture it there. It's never ideal. We have to bring in the footage. We have to convert it all. It'd be great if we could just do it right on your box, but then we'd probably need that 250 gig hard drive from the Modern Warfare 2
We're going to need it anyway. That's
bundle.
one of the things about Forza is they couldn't fit it on a 360 disc.
Yeah, there's
So
2
they're
discs.
2 gig install before you start if you want everything.
Now, did you try it with the install and without to see what the differences were?
Well, I know what the differences are just because I looked it up. There's 100 cars and 3 of the tracks.
Or on the extra disc?
Yeah, and it works like DLC. It just kind of plugs in. So you can play without that stuff. But if you want all the content, you have to do the install.
Now, one of the things I'm kind of disappointed that the game doesn't, a lot of games don't have still, is a track editor. The ability to make your own track. I wonder when we're going to finally get to a place
Mod
where...
Nation Racers, man.
Yeah. I mean, that's the only one. That's kind of a cute sort of racing game. It's not really like a sim or anything like that. I think that would be great if you could create your own raceways and then share them.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of the things to look forward to in the future. I mean, Forza 3, majority of the tracks are just, the like real world tracks. There's only a couple that are the ones that they made themselves.
Which game has the best AI? Because, throughout time, people have loved Gran Turismo, but those cars are dumb. They just...
Well, they're on a rail. They're on a predetermined path.
The racing line. So I'm just curious, like with, all these kind of story modes and stuff like that, and like kind of RPG elements being added to all these games, which one has the best actual like challenge, not from the track, but from other racers?
Best challenge from other racers is Shift, I'm sure.
Need for Speed Shift.
Yeah, because they get really aggressive and stuff in there, and you can see what they're doing a lot more.
Does that make the game more fun?
Yeah, I
It does?
I think Shift did some innovative stuff with the driver profiles. They have this, every track set up to where like there's 0 out of 8 corners mastered, and so you're constantly, trying to get every part of that track perfect, and it's always giving you feedback as to when you're getting a clean overtake or a dirty overtake and stuff like that. So I really like, how they push that aspect of things in Shift.
Now, in Forza, the rewind feature, you mentioned in your review, kind of controversial, and obviously Microsoft's argument is going to be, well, you don't have to use it if you don't want to.
Right, but it's always there, and they actually, you can turn it off, but by default, any time that you make any kind of mistake, like going off track or bumping somebody, like the icon will pop up and it says push back to rewind.
Is it the new Clippy of the racing game?
Well, it's a guilty pleasure, right?
Yeah, it's one of those things. If you're on a 10-minute lap and you blow one turn, yeah, it's nice to have that there, but...
There's no way in hell I'm not using that button
Yeah.
if I've, been on one lap for 10 minutes and I make one mistake.
Is it unlimited in Forza?
That's the thing, is there's no limit
Because I
to
think
it.
Grid did it well with 3 times.
Yeah,
Right.
the way it works in Dirt 2 is it's based on your difficulty level. If you're on easy, you get 5 rewinds. I think if you're on hard, you don't get any.
Now,
Does
to
it
me,
affect-
Forza should reward you if you don't use it. You should get some kind of bonus
Right.
credits or something for not
And
ever
they
having
do
to
really
rewind.
good with everything else like that. Every other assist, you turn it off, you get plus 15% on your credits. And you can double your money if you go all the way up to doing a manual.
So it doesn't
clutch.
penalize you if you take the option to do the rewind. You don't get
There's no
penalized.
penalties for using rewind.
Oh, that's a cop out.
The only thing that's different is the way they rank the leaderboards. The leaderboards are ranked based on all the different things that you have set up on your assists.
Now, looking at Gran Turismo, you weren't at Tokyo Game Show where you didn't get to see like the latest rev of it or whatever, but based upon what you know about the game, what is the next Gran Turismo going to have to do to compete with Forza? Is there anything it can do to compete with Forza?
Well,
at this
I
point?
think it can compete with Forza. I think the strengths Gran Turismo already has going for it is they are going to have a ton of cars. They are most likely going to have more tracks. And I think from the little clips that I saw that the damage model is probably better too.
In Gran Turismo?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they stack up. I think that, from what I played before, Gran Turismo's AI probably needs to shape up a bit more.
Yeah.
And they need to do some more things for people to really be able to personalize it, because I know a lot of the times in the past, you're pretty much stuck with what the manufacturer has.
Now, which game do you think looks better? I mean, you've probably played Prologue, so you kind of have an understanding of how that engine looks and, what ultimately the next Gran Turismo is going to look like. Visually, which would you say is a superior game?
I mean, right now I would say probably Forza, but it's hard to say, when GT5 is still a little ways off. But GT5, I think, has a little bit more of a realism to it. I think Forza, they try to, it's almost like there are times where, even though like these are some of the most detailed cars I've ever seen, I still feel like they look like toys or something.
Yeah, it seems like the color saturation is turned up in
Yeah.
Forza a little bit to give it more of a game look versus a stark, realistic look.
So, and I think they do that still a little bit too, as far as the handling. It's a little bit more on the playable side than a strict sim.
So, racing game of the year is
Yeah, what's your favorite game that you've played so far?
I mean,
Out of the
Fuel,
bunch
right?
this year is Forza, yeah.
It's not Fuel?
No, not Fuel.
Okay.
Forza's the best one so far.
Yeah.
And chances are, with the games that are coming on the horizon, it's probably going to stay that way.
Yeah, definitely.
Congratulations on completing your first season.
All right, so now here's a bit of a surprise. And I have to admit, I was actually on a brief vacation when our review went up for this game. And when I got back, I looked and I was like, that's pretty high. So, Stevens, here you are on the
I'm
spot
actually
to
lowballing it.
defend your review
There's
of
no
Demons.
defense. This
There's
is
no
just championing. I didn't give it enough points.
Wow.
You know, there's the point
Demon
one increment.
Souls. Let's get that out there.
Oh, yeah,
So,
this is Demon Souls.
Yeah.
Real Demon Souls starts now.
Really? So we gave it an 8.9, and you're saying you feel like you may have underscored it.
I'm trying to always do that kind of like objective/subjective thing. Like, this is one of my kind of personal games of the year, but there are some things that can't be ignored in the game, such as you can't, the very first part of the game, you can't level at all. So the bar to entry is really high getting through the very first level, which really kind of opens up the entire game.
At
People are
Tokyo Game
spending,
Show
like-
last year, I played it, and it seemed frickin' impossible.
Yeah, it's a difficult game. It's hard. It's from From Software, who did the notorious King's Field. Is that what it's called? King's Field games,
Yep.
which were pretty difficult as well. As I
Most of their
understand.
games are present a nice challenge.
Yeah, I'm hoping this the 3D Dot Game Heroes looks like Zelda. So
Yeah.
I'm curious if they're gonna make that
Looks
brutal.
ridiculous.
But Demon Souls just does something that we don't often see, in where it's really innovating in a lot of ways, and actually kind of giving the middle finger to some game design choices that have become really popular.
Well,
as
that's
of
sort of
late.
the antithesis of Uncharted 2, isn't it?
The doing stuff new.
Yeah.
I love, in a nutshell, I'd say I love Zelda's sword combat. Like, anytime I had to actually use my shield and my sword, and we see games like Ninja Gaiden.
You mean like
where
Ocarina of Time? Or?
yeah, Ocarina of Time, and I feel like they kind of upped it a little bit in Twilight Princess, and even Wind Waker, with like those giant pits you fall into and just fight people.
Yeah.
But I still never felt like it was really coherent, because they're always mixing in the puzzles and stuff.
Right.
Demon Souls gives you these great crafted like dungeon levels with big bosses and great set pieces and stuff and surprises. And it's really all about like sword combat. Like, I played Die by the Sword from Treyarch back in like 10 years ago, but I don't really I have a foggy memory of that at best. But it's like real sword combat, lots of different weapons, lots of great. It seems simple at first because it's like slash, hard slash, but then shield bash, an actual parry and riposte. And you can even do some like interesting dodge moves. So it's always actiony, but you're also always kind of like planning with your gear. And some people are weak to certain weapons and stuff like that. But the real innovation is the multiplayer. And it's got to be said, this if you're looking for like a Phantasy Star Online or a World of Warcraft, it's not really that. It's not even really Diablo. It's a single-player game with a multiplayer component. If you want to play with your friends, it's not easy. You're playing mainly with strangers, and it's very like kind of pick up and kind of not really sure what's going to happen. But it actually fits into the game's story, which is an interesting. You're not sitting in lobbies and stuff like that. They're trying to actually keep it integrated, and they do a good job of not breaking like the atmosphere and stuff like that. And it's a very atmospheric game, even though the story is a little on the weak side. And the online is, if you're alive, you spend most of the game in spirit. But if you're alive, you can summon 2 other dead players into your realm, and then it becomes a co-op game. And then later on in the game, you get an item that actually lets you go break into someone's game and assassinate them to get your life back.
Wow.
And you can't opt out. If you're on PSN, you're in. So like some people are really like, and if you die, you lose a lot of progress in this game.
That's pretty rough.
It's a commitment game. If the kind of like Zelda Diablo thing mixed together appeals to you, and you're ready to lose progress and actually lose progress, go for it. Great bosses, great sets, interesting online. It's hard to get break through that opening barrier, and if you're trying to expect to play with friends, it can be a real hassle just trying to set that stuff up.
Who's this game for? Because I think a lot of people probably look at it, they're like, oh, it's some obscure
I
Japanese
think it's for people who are
RPG.
like, games these
But
days
it's
suck.
really a
They're for
Western-
pussies. There's no challenge
It's
anymore.
Is it a
got a Western
grinder?
Everything's too smooth.
There's some grinding, but unlike, I would say, non-turn or like turn-based games, since there's the reflex action thing, grinding's not as bad.
Is there any mounting?
There's little mounting, little to no
and
mounting.
grinding, I'm sold.
But there are some crazy things the game does with the online, which I won't spoil. But I mean, I showed some guys in the office, and that was pretty insane.
I like my Dungeon Keeper, I like my Overlord 2. Do you think this would be a good game for me?
You like Overlord 2? You probably
like Overlord 2 a lot.
then you probably don't like good games.
You know
We
what?
established that a long
Dude,
time ago.
I like Overlord 2 because it feels
If-
like
if
it fills
you
a
can-
gap that there is no Dungeon Keeper
There's
3.
exactly.
I
There's
like-
nothing like this game. The combat feels like Zelda, and there's no real outright puzzles except for the actual environment, and there's some side quests and stuff like that.
So what
Traps,
did
though.
pull it down
The
to the
game's
8.9 then? I mean, if it's crazy innovative,
Because it throws in this online and what you expect from it, even though it kind of answers for it, it's annoying because you do want to play the game with friends, and you can set up a voice chat thing, but there's the built-in thing, you're limited to like 8 gestures. So it's kind of like the RE5 route where if you have to like set up it through the PSN thing. And just the bar to entry, it's a great game, but since you can't level, and leveling, obviously makes the game easier to play, it can be hard to just break that barrier. Like people on message boards are like stopping at level 1 and like, why did I buy this game? But the people that break through are going to have a great experience. There really isn't anything like it out there right now.
Now I must go.
So Demon's Souls actually transitions very nicely, or segues, if you will, into a brief discussion we're going to have about our Uncharted 2 review. Now, every single time we put up a review for a PS3 exclusive, we go through this. No one's ever happy with the score. No one's ever happy.
You're a bastard.
I'm a bastard, or a bastard.
You're a bastard.
Why am I a bastard?
You're a bastard because you hate the PS3 and you're a total expert, and Nintendo pay you money and send you hats and shit, and you hate the PS3, apparently, so there.
Yeah, people only tend to hear what they want to hear.
Well, Nintendo is sending you a hat.
Yeah, they are. But I earned that hat, damn it.
I have issues. I mean, I know you're the guy who obviously played the game and you wrote the review, and just from a third-person perspective, somebody who's slightly outside the loop, the comments I saw in response to the review are taking the piss. Simply because, the first comment is, you say that the game is very similar to Uncharted 1.
Which it is.
Which it is. I mean, I've hand-played the game. I sat there and watched Brooks do capture.
You could almost say it's a sequel.
Yeah, you could you could almost say that
Interesting.
it's by the guys who did Uncharted 1. But yes, it is more the same. Then they say, oh, well, Gears of War 2 is the same as Gears of War 1, but you didn't say that in the review. And Modern Warfare 2 is going to be the same as Modern Warfare 1, and I bet you won't ding it in the review for that. And it's just...
First of all, I didn't review Gears of War 2.
That's the other thing.
But the thing is, it is a sequel, and it scored higher than the previous game.
Right.
I mean, I agree. You reviewed Uncharted 1, right?
I did,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I agree with that score. I may even think it's a little too high for Uncharted 1, just a tiny bit. But I mean, this is a better game, and it got a better score.
Yeah, as far as people's sort of criticisms of the review are concerned, what I saw the most was that people were upset that I dinged it so much for it not being original. And that's the comment that I saw the most on message boards and in our comments. And the truth of the matter is it's not original. It doesn't really do anything that hasn't been done in other games. And people say, oh, well, you compare it to Gears of War. Why did Gears of War get a higher score? Gears of War 2 was released a year ago. The original Gears of War was released way before that. So the expectations change over time. You can't just create a Me Too game where you grab all the best features from all the games that are over a year old and expect to get the same score a year later for those same features. Now, honestly, there was nothing original in Uncharted 2, and to be perfectly honest with you, the 9.3 that game got is about as high a score as a game like that is ever going to get on game trailers, and that's the bottom line. And when we review games, we put an extremely high emphasis on originality. Why do you think Super Mario Galaxy scored so high? It's because it did tons of things that no game had ever done before. I was platforming upside down in that game. I was platforming around round levels in that game. There's nothing like that in Uncharted 2. And again, I've said it a million times, the game is freaking incredible. The last line of the review says, go buy the game. If you have the PS3, go freaking buy it. Like, what more can I say? But at the same time, I cannot slight the other games that did go above and beyond and did take a risk. And that's what Uncharted 2 doesn't do. There are no risks associated with that game at all. They played it completely safe. They took things that they knew were accepted and that people loved and built it into one game. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But you can't expect to get a score of a 9.8 or a 9.5 and higher if you're doing something look like Little Big Planet. That game completely blew the doors off anything else. Nothing else like it. It scored higher, and that's why. It had some faults, so it didn't get up to near the 10 range, but despite its faults, it did so many things new and did them so well that it scores higher than Uncharted. Our reviews have always been this way. We place a huge emphasis on originality and value. And and that's why this game got a nice bump up over the first Uncharted, because it has the awesome multiplayer suite, which means you'll get a lot more playtime out of it. Plus, the quest is a good 2 or 3 hours longer.
We had the same conversation 3 weeks ago with Batman Arkham Asylum.
Yeah.
Where you said it's.
What
it's
Batman
not-
score again? Just to refresh.
9 flat.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I mean, I still think it's
9 point
personally,
nothing.
it's personally
Could it
one
still
of my
be
games of the year.
Cody?
And I think the other thing is that perhaps I'm a little personally
Nines
a
are
little
good.
more sort of like lax on the whole originality and taking a chance, because if something is done really well consistently across the board and does all these things together, I tend to give it a little bit more leeway. But I understand.
But
you're
what do
coming
you
from.
do with the game then that does go above and beyond and goes out on a limb and does something original? Would you give it an 11?
Well, I mean, that's why-
how do you create that scale?
Someone,
though?
I-
gave,
Europe
someone
does.
gave Uncharted
Yeah, that's
12,
just
right?
what Europe does. Yeah,
No,
I
I-
think
no, I
that the
understand.
precedent was set when some jackass gave the game a 21 out of 20.
Yeah, no, there was a couple of sites and magazines that actually did the 11 out of 10 thing, and I think that's where personally when I do stuff on my own little site, I don't give review scores.
Yeah.
I just say if I think it's really good or not. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
unfortunately,
the
if you
thing
don't
for
give
me.
scores, a lot of people don't go to your site. That's just the
Because you don't
truth.
get on Metacritic,
Everybody wants
yeah.
a hard number. That's why top 10 lists are so popular online. Everybody needs to have. That's why these people are freaking out over a 9.3.
Well, my advice for those people is they should just round up.
Just go buy it. That's all that matters. I told people to buy the game. What else can I do?
As a PR, when I was a PR person, I would be happy with a 93%.
Yeah, I think anyone would be happy with a 93%. I mean, at the end of the day, it's fanboys, and let's face it, they're never going to be happy. Somebody gave it a 21 out of 20, they're complaining about me giving it a 9.3. I mean, the game has been unanimously praised by all critics, including us.
And I actually want to address one guy on the forums last week who said that I kept really quiet during the Uncharted, discussion.
There's some conspiracy there. You liked the game, so I told you to shut up.
Well, apparently, I kept quiet because I hate the PS3. Now, I kept quiet
Right.
was because I was actually enjoying listening to what you had to say, because I haven't played the game.
Right.
And I still haven't played the game, and I will not play the game until it comes out next Tuesday, or the Tuesday after next, sorry.
October.
Yeah. No.
Is
what?
it after? I thought it was the same day.
It's the week after, I think. It's the week
Oh.
after. It's the 20th. But yeah, that's when I'll play the game for the first time, because, I'll go out and buy it. I'm going to go and buy this game. So, we are not biased against the PS3. We actually, I think,
We say this once a week. I'm
We
so
do.
sick of this shit.
I spend more time on my
It's like,
PS3
watch
than
the
any of my other
freaking show.
consoles.
If you watch more than one episode of this show, you know we don't give a crap about that. Anyway. Go buy the game, people. Be quiet. We love the game. Everybody sitting at this table loves the game.
I love the game when I get to play it. It looks
Marcus
good, though.
will love the game. I promise him that. The game is really freaking good. Just enjoy the game, enjoy your time with it, and be done with it.
See ya.
All right, now Justin Spear is here with his patented energy and wit to talk to us about Brutal Legend. Now, our review is going up next Wednesday, Tuesday, the 13th, right?
Either
Rocktober.
Tuesday or Wednesday.
October the 13th,
Yeah.
I believe our review will be going up. But you have been playing it for review. And while we don't want to get into too much opinion here, obviously, we would like to know sort of the nuts and bolts of the game, how it plays out, how it works, how it's structured, and things like that.
Without giving your opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, that,
Send her a Wikipedia entry.
Yeah.
well, it's an open world adventure game.
It's a game.
It is a game.
Does it come on like
You
one
can
of
play
those
it.
discs, or is it a cartridge-based game?
It's
One of the newfangled
some
DLC
kinda,
games.
yeah, some kind of
They'll never catch
kind of
me.
DVD, I believe. But well, maybe ask me some questions like, what do you want to know? Most people are probably familiar.
So
you know,
here's the
it's
part where
it's
people always
based on
complain
heavy
that I always
metal.
butt in on people.
All right, so I'm
This
gonna,
is why I
No,
butt
no,
in
okay,
on
well,
people.
Well, I mean, I don't want to sit here and do a monologue.
So,
I have some questions because I
This is-
remember
this
the
is
first time I saw
interaction,
this,
right?
it was an out-and-out RTS game. The first time I saw it at Vivendi 3-4 years ago. So how has it evolved from being a pure RTS? Because that's what it was originally.
Well,
And how
there-
much of an RTS is it? I think that's the biggest question everyone has, is how much of the game is the real-time strategy with the headbanger guys?
It's probably, I would say less than half. I mean, it's not primarily an RTS. It's an adventure game. You explore, you find things, you unlock things, you trigger story missions, and you trigger side missions. And some of the story missions are big, huge battles where you order dudes around, team up with dudes. You're trying to take kind of control of there's these geysers of fans. So you want to build a merch booth on top of the fan geyser, and then you use their, I don't know, you use their power to, summon units, and then they appear at your base, and then you kind of physically go over to them and you tell them what to do with it.
Now, do those guys carry on from one mission to the next, or do you have to rebuild your army every time there's a new mission?
Yeah, basically every time you start a mission, you have, you go get some fans and you build some dudes, and then you go and break some shit.
Okay. Now, how do the side missions play into the overall arc of the game? What's the incentive for doing side missions in this game?
There's basically, you get fire tributes from the rock gods. Basically, it's a currency you use to upgrade. You go and visit Ozzy Osbourne in like these caves and the
So
Bells
he's
of
the
Hell.
upgrader. That's his role in the
He
game.
basically, and he
Does
has
he play
nice little-
himself?
He does. There's a little commentary for every single thing you'll upgrade on. He'll have a little comment on it, and it's it can sound a little weird if you're scrolling through things fast and you're scrolling through it, but it's a cool touch. I mean, production-wise, the game, without giving too much opinion, it's pretty amazing. The environments are really cool. They have a really neat dynamic weather system where they have it just really weird, fucked up looking stuff, meteor showers and like aurora borealis and weird green sky and all kinds of strange effects. Like since it's not really a realistic world, right? So they just do all kinds of crazy stuff with the sky.
Does the quipping of
there's
the main
weather.
character exist throughout? Like, I played the demo and
Oh yeah,
some
it's
stuff.
the whole thing. It feels pretty heavily written, and the dialogue is great. I mean,
Have you chuckled?
I'm smiling a lot of the time. A couple of chuckles.
No
maybe
guffaws, no.
maybe one LOL, maybe.
So how does the music fit in? I mean, obviously they've been, it's a rock and roll game, and you've got Ozzy in
It's a
there.
heavy metal game.
Heavy
Right.
metal.
There's a
rock-
difference.
Heavy metal
there's a
rock. It's a rock.
relationship.
It's a hard rock game.
There's a relationship.
Hard Rock Cafe again.
Hard Rock Cafe.
Yeah. So I mean, how does that fit in? How does it sound? Have they integrated it into the game, or is it just there as a soundtrack?
No, it's super integrated. In fact, I mean, sometimes we have to turn the music down to do capture, which is actually kind of pisses me off
Soul-crushing?
here because I
Right.
want
This
to.
is one of the few games where you actually mind turning the
Yeah,
music
but I mean,
up.
a lot of sections they've actually matched it with they have a huge soundtrack. I mean, you can view the list online. They got a ton
100
of,
plus songs,
a ton
right?
of stuff, a ton of really old stuff. I mean, it could probably turn people into metal fans if they have any kind of interest. It's it's like if I guess Grand Theft Auto probably exposed a lot of people to maybe some good
Lots of
rap,
music,
some
yeah.
old cool stuff. But yeah, it's like Iron Maiden and Motorhead. It's like Eric B and Rakim or something. You can build an appreciation of it.
Did you build an appreciation of it?
I listened to. I was open to metal before, like in high school and stuff. But you'll hear cool stuff, and they do cool stuff with it. They pair it with specific moments, and then when you're in your car, you basically have whatever songs are unlocked, which are unlocked both by progression, or you can find these kind of monuments in the ground, and you can raise them, and it'll give you a new song. So you're constantly getting new stuff to listen to, and a lot of it is really good.
So you have
can-
like radio stations? I guess since it's all metal, you just have one big radio
It is
station.
one big radio station. You can cycle through it if you want. You can hit up and look at the entire track list. You can play anything. You can remove tracks that you don't want to hear. So, I mean, which is kind of like a racing game in a way. So yeah, in terms of that, they totally made use of everything.
Now,
that they
since
had.
this is a Tim Schafer game, I'm just curious. Have there been anything that you'd call like a puzzle?
There are some puzzly moments, and if you f up too much, then they'll basically flat out tell you what to do. But there
Still,
are
so
some.
it's more of an action adventure game.
There
through
are
and
actually
through.
some adventure game type things where you have a limited time to do the right thing, and if you don't, then you're dead. But if you die, you come back to life. You're right there. It's not really punishing you.
Now the combat, how does that work? I saw you doing some team up attacks.
Well, it's pretty much actiony. It's kind of like.
Is it a button masher or no?
From the demo, it
You
felt
have
like
some.
Devil May Cry.
There's some light
light.
combos. It's the way people do combat in 3D action games. It's like, well, you have this button and you have that button. You basically mix things up between your guitar and your axe, the other axe. Yeah. So there are little combos and set moves that you can buy new ones and unlock them, but you can do a little bit of juggling. But yeah, you can also just kind of mash on buttons and get things done if you want to do that. If you keep mashing the axe button, you will beat the shit out of people with the axe. And if you want to, guitar, you hammer on that and people are
Burst into flames.
enlightening.
So
burst into flames.
I've got two questions. First of all, Jack Black, I mean, obviously he's been pimped all the way through, and he's doing a whole lot of whoring himself out for this with the T-shirts and all that sort of stuff. Does he? The thing I find about him is I like him for a certain amount of time, and then he gets a little bit annoying.
You mean in general?
Just in general, in movies and stuff like that. You'll watch, say, 2/3 of a movie.
He is kind of a one-trick pony.
Yeah.
He's not my favorite actor in the world. I've enjoyed some of his stuff, but
How does
I
he
mean,
come across in game?
he's playing a character at least. There are some times where you're like, oh, that's like Jack Black speaking, but you know, a lot of the time it feels like he's trying to play a character. It hasn't gotten annoying to me. You know, his delivery's
by a
really
lot
good.
of things.
Right.
So.
I am hugely
That's a
annoyed
good
by a
sign.
lot of things. I have,
You're annoyed just
I have
by
no
being here.
tolerance.
So the
Very
second
little
question
tolerance.
is, does this feel like a Tim Schafer game? I mean, this is Tim.
Yeah,
you know,
it's really heavily written. The vibe is, you know, they are constantly, you're always getting, there are more tiny voice clips in this game than, I mean, most games. And a lot of them will remind you of something that you're supposed to be doing. Like, I didn't know explicitly at first that you can jump on animals and mount them, but I had stunned this critter with a lightning blast. And he's like, hold still, because soon I will mount you. And I'm like, huh, do I need to push Y or something? So you push Y and you jump on him. But yeah, you'll get a lot of little context-sensitive things that maybe are calling your attention to things you didn't know were there in the world, or, you know, they're constantly doing character development, stuff like that, and looking forward in the story, commenting on things that had just happened. So, yeah, I mean, that way it's totally a Tim Schafer game, you can tell.
Any multiplayer in the game? Because it kind of makes sense with the strategy bent.
There is, and that's exactly what it is, the strategy part, and it's multiplayer. I haven't really fooled around with it too much. And of course, I don't want to get into too much opinion. You know,
I've heard it conjures up Pikmin 2 multiplayer, but without the split screen, so probably better.
Is this game kind of like Pikmin for older folks?
It's a lot. It's different than Pikmin or Overlord, which is a game
Little
for
King Story.
for gypsies and
Yeah.
yeah. It's not for.
all right, 64.
It's not really. Yeah, it doesn't really feel like Pikmin. It kind of feels like. It kind of feels like its own thing. The real-time strategy battles are something that comes up. It's not the entire game. It's like, you know, big set pieces are like, all right, time for a massive battle, and you know they're likened to concerts. Each side builds a stage. So
I hope that this is a game that comes out when it comes out is going to sell a lot. I'm going to buy a copy. I'm going to give EA my money.
Would you have given Activision your money?
Fuck no.
Yeah.
All right, that's going to do it for episode 78 of Invisible Walls. Uncharted 2, we love you. I don't care what the fanboys say, we love you.
Wouldn't kick it out of bed for eating crackers.
Or cookies. Anyway,
Maybe cookies.
thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week with even more awesomer games. Invisible Walls is out.